Welcome to the fifth Monday meeting of the Roswell City Council. I'd like to invite Sabrina Pinion, Ms. North America Galaxy, our neighbor from Woodstock, to come forward and lead us in the pledge. If we'd all stand and face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sabrina, if you would come to the microphone and tell the council how you became North America Galaxy, Ms. North America Galaxy.
Actually, I proudly represented Georgia last year at the National and received the title of Mrs. North America. So I'll leave tomorrow to represent the married women of our continent in the International Mrs. Galaxy pageant in Orlando, Florida.
Thank you. And if you could stay just a moment longer, my council would love to get their picture taken with you.
I would enjoy that very much and appreciate it.
Sabrina.
And I want to say thank you guys for allowing me to be here to say the pledge. That's very, very much of an honor for me. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Where is this here?
It's in the box. I didn't know that was I didn't know that'd be appropriate, so we left the chair in the plastic box. I thought about that and had to go get the camera, but I wasn't sure. We'll take one with one other thing. You guys can have a good life.
I've got one more after this.
Okay.
Nancy Donovan, we need to get the tiara on you.
Thank you all.
All right, this is the fifth Monday meeting, and this is your opportunity to speak on any subject involving the city of Roswell. I don't want to hear anything about Atlanta. But whatever you'd like to, any questions you've got for staff, or any comments you'd like to make, I'll recognize one person, and we'll be here as long as you wish to speak. Yes, ma'am, if you'll come forward, if you'll give us your name and address. There are no time limits on fifth Monday meetings.
You're welcome. Good evening. Thank you. My name is Janet Russell. I live at 260 Willow Springs Drive. I happily am coming here for 40 years. First of all, I want to publicly thank Mrs. Betty Price. Last time I was here, surprise, huh, Betty? I was here 5 weeks ago, or whenever the last fifth Monday was, asking about solving a problem simple at the corner of Jones Drive and Highway 9. I had been at it for 3 years. And within 48 hours, the problem was solved. Thank you, Mrs. Price. You and I may not see eye to eye all the time, but I do appreciate your efforts. It was great. Thank you very much.
You just think we don't see eye to eye.
I know. I think we're probably closer. It has prevented several accidents already from all the teenagers that go to the coffee house at the corner who seem to think they can drive with no hands and text and put their eye makeup on at the same time, while there's 2 northbound lanes and 1 southbound lane. So that's one thing I want to thank you for. Also, I thanked Steve Asenbrack earlier this month, but when we had that big storm that blew through here and surprised everyone, we lost a big 150-year-old tree right down in my street off the old farmhouse, which was sad, but what was sadder was that it blocked our street, and we had no way in or out, and the transportation guys were there at midnight cleaning off the street, so we had a little path to go on. And they were really, really nice, and they weren't grumbly, and it was really awful outside. And I wanted to remind you what fine employees you have at this city, because they were there without a complaint, and within about a day, the street was partially cleared. It was a big mess all over the city, as we know. Some people lost homes. But I wanted to publicly acknowledge them again, because they do a really good job, and we don't pay them very much money. So that's the attaboys. I learned that from Mr. Sam Evans, who always started with the thank yous. Now we have a few issues, and I'll go through them quickly, but I have written them down. State Route 9, which we know is a mess. One of the problems is the used car lot that's on 9 that's kind of close to Sugo's and in there. Nothing we can do about it, I guess, until the city decides to spend $200,000 and buy the lot from them like they just did to make 15 parking spaces. But right next to it is an empty building that has been a lot of things over the years, a little 7-Eleven, most recently a dry cleaners. They've now decided to use the front of that building as excess car parking for their used cars. And I wasn't under the impression that we could extend used car lots to a lot that's not designated a car lot. All weekend there was a big truck hauling a giant boat parked in that front of that building. And I, for one, who hate the fact that all development is stymied because that car lot exists, would like to see the city take some action and make sure that they understand that they do not have permission to park used cars there as their overflow inventory. We live there. It's a blight. None of you live there. You never see it. I'm relaying a message from Mrs. Judy Balter, who owns the Balter Company on Jones Drive. We went this week with Mike Elliott, or last week. There's been a problem for about 3 years since CMS moved in at the corner of Jones and Highway 9. They are a construction and remodeling company. When they got their license to do business there, they said they had 2 full-time employees. Most given days, there's at least 12 construction pickup trucks parked in the parking lot, which was for like 4 cars, and on the street, which doesn't allow for cars to be able to move. We met with Mike Elliott. They had taken tons and tons of pictures. When the truck comes in to deliver food to the restaurant that's next to it in the shopping center, it's a semi-tractor trailer that has to enter at the coffee shop end of the building, of the street, to come around because there's no way to get out of Jones to deliver. When that happens, there's truly this much room and no one can get through. Mrs. Balter called the police again today or Friday, because there was a similar problem. They don't seem to care. They just don't care that they're obstructing traffic and making a nuisance. Mrs. Balter was almost hit head-on again by someone coming onto Jones as she tried to exit on Friday, as did one of her employees. When she called the police because the car was parked on this side of the street but going in the wrong direction, she was told to call the traffic police. She did, and they came by and did a drive-by and looked and never issued a ticket, which should have been issued. And she's asked me to let you know that. She was told by Mike Elliott to just call 911 and get someone out there to solve the problem, and she told me she would not waste 911's time on a traffic issue. But we need to get this problem solved. We've been good neighbors for 5 years or 3 years, how long these people have been there. They just sort of give their thumbs up to whatever they want. They say, oh, yes, yes, and then they do nothing. She even offered to let them, their secretaries, the 2 who were the full-time employees, use her own parking. Instead, the workmen there who come decided to use her lot as in-out for their trucks. They dumped barrels of nails on the ground. She lost 2 tires at her expense. They've had an illegal land use issuance against them, moving the land. They didn't care. They broke the sewer pipes. It's a mess. And we need the city to take action on this. You were talking about the historic gateway. It's down to the nuts and bolts first, people, before you have the grand plan. We live there. Also, I want to reiterate, since this House is full tonight, that last Monday night the City Council approved $200,000 to purchase 0.8 of 1 acre to make 15 parking spaces next to Allenbrook, so that people who drive to Roswell can then walk in the woods. I did a quick run, and if you spent $200,000 at $20 a linear foot on sidewalks, we could have had 20 miles of sidewalks in Roswell. Roswell's 48 square miles. This city would have been a walking paradise. Instead, we have 15 parking spaces, and that money did not include paving the parking lot or maintaining it in the future. I had asked that. You weren't here, Mayor Wood, so I'm refreshing your memory, which wasn't here. Now, regarding pedestrian access. As I drove home today from the grocery store across the river, irony never escapes me. There is a sign that has a pedestrian crossing logo on it, indicating that like 50 feet or 100 feet, there's going to be pedestrians crossing. However, there are no crosswalks for 2 miles on Highway 9. But even funnier was that the sign is in the middle of the sidewalk, so that a pedestrian can't use the sidewalk, but because the sign that says there's pedestrians is blocking the sidewalk. You think we might want to move the sign out of the middle of the sidewalk to let people walk where they say they're going to walk because they can't walk because you're too busy telling motorists that there's pedestrians? Sounds a little convoluted? You're right. The other thing is on Highway 9, right by my street again, there's the X's and the O's, you know, that tell us when we can commit suicide and when we can't. And 2 problems. One, if you're turning left at 10 a.m. in the morning, the sun is shining right in those X's from my street, and you cannot tell if there is an X or an O in the lane you turn into. The glare is so bad that you better get in the far lane or you're toast, because you're not quite sure when the 2 southbound lanes change on the weekends versus the weekdays. But more importantly, I asked Steve Asenbrack, and he was surprised. They've put in a box this big and this wide on the telephone pole that is the power pole, not the pole that holds the X's and the O's. We have one here and one here, and on this one they put this giant box which is supposed to monitor traffic patterns in Sandy Springs or something. The problem is it obstructs our view to get out of Highway 9, which is already a safety trap. You either have to pull back so far that you can see on this side of the box, and then you don't have enough time to jump out and get into Highway 9 when there's a break in the traffic, or you have to inch forward so you're in front of the box, and you still can't get out because now you'll be hit by somebody passing by. I don't know who decided to put it there, who got permission from the city. Nobody asked the passengers, the people who live there. Hello? It's all about safety. We have a hard time getting in and out of our little street. So that's that. Now, Mrs. Balter also asked me to tell you something that happened today. She got a check in the mail. I know, she won the Nigerian lottery, right? However, it was a cashier's check from Citibank for over $4,000. And she knew it was a scam. She's a businesswoman, just like I am, so it's beware, beware. But we have a lot of senior citizens and people who could use $4,000 who would think it was a legitimate check. So she called the police here, and they said, Officer Sean, I forgot his last name, came out, says he was very, very nice. He called somebody at the police station, and they said, basically, there's nothing we can do about it. You need to call, like, the GBI. So they did some research, and it seems the GBI can't act on anything till the city issues a police report, and the police refused to do it. So Mrs. Balter asked me to tell you that she owns a commercial property for over 20 years in this city, and she's really, really, really disappointed in the response from the police department. There seems to be a breakdown in action, and it needs to be taken care of. We have seniors in this town that are going to get scammed. I got one in December. I'm smart enough to say, what? No, I don't think so. But it's a cashier's check. A cashier's check, that's like cash. And it's from mine was from PNC Bank. But to be told by the police there's nothing you can do, and then go to the GBI and say we can't do anything until your police files a report. So I'm just the messenger for Mrs. Balter, who owns the Balter Company. Now, it's summer and it's the pool. And the pool is wonderful as always. As always, I swim every day. However, do you know that our lifeguards make $8 an hour? And in Alpharetta, the same young people make $13 an hour. Aren't we ashamed? Those kids, those young people, lifeguard all day long for thousands in a week of daycare kids and camper kids. Thousands, not hundreds. And they are given charge of the lives of children, and they're paid $8 an hour. And I asked someone, how does that happen? And I said, this city's rolling in dough. I'm sorry, you guys have got money to spend $200,000 on an 0.8 of an acre parking lot. You have money to spend when you want to. Don't you think you ought to acknowledge the responsibilities that these kids have to maintain the pool and the safety of the people by paying them a little bit more? I was told that the reason Alpharetta can do it is they take money out of our general operating fund, whereas in the city we have a policy that every single recreation program must support itself. Well, I think if you can have a $2 million bond to build a senior citizen pool, when they don't even go to the one we have, you might want to suggest finding some money to pay the kids the right amount of money. And I told them all that yesterday. I'm going to slug it out for you, kids. You need a paycheck that's bigger. Acknowledge if you're drowning, you'll be real glad they're there. If your grandchild falls in the pool, you're going to be really glad they know how to do CPR. Now, a few months ago, you all went on a retreat, didn't you? Down to Lake Oconee, I think, to the Ritz-Carlton. And I had a question about that. How many of you are familiar on council with the Find It All in Roswell program?
I would expect the entire council is.
Okay, and how much do we fund that every year? I know the opener was like $450,000 2 years ago. The Find It All in Roswell program is supposed to generate business in Roswell. And I'm all about that. I've lived here a long time. Mrs. Love, do you happen to know off the top of your head, I didn't have time to ask you what the cost of that retreat was? $10,000, $30,000, $25,000?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. I just thought you might know. I know it was probably $20,000, $25,000 for a weekend. My question is, who organized it? Who decided to go there? And why didn't you call me? You all know that I sell travel for 35 years. I sell meetings. I organize anywhere. I've been to 80 countries. Governments come to me. Why didn't my city government come to me and say, Janet, we'd like to give you some business because we want to find it all in Roswell? The other thing is, and that disappointed me, all flaps, no throttle, we used to say in Vietnam. All foam, no beer. The worst opportunity you lost was having your meeting here in Roswell. And as a professional meeting planner and hospitality person, I want to tell you that you could have sent the message out to the entire city or the state or the region that Roswell's a really good place to have meetings. You could have had, and I know somebody said, we had to get unplugged and get away from it all. It's real simple. Turn off the cell phone. I'm sure you all did that at Lake Oconee. You have the Riverside Landing where you could have had your meeting. We have nice hotels. We have beautiful facilities here that would have cost you nothing at Riverside Landing. We own it. You would have sent the message, Roswell's a good place to bring your business meetings. The second thing is the taxes, if you paid them on those rooms, had you paid for them here in Roswell, would have gone directly to the Roswell Convention and Visitors Bureau. Because I've told you before, and no action's ever been taken, hotels booked online, the tax goes to the state. Hotels booked directly with the hotel, the tax money goes to the Visitors Bureau. That is 8 to 10% that you're giving away, and you did it by taking your business to Lake Oconee? Sorry, folks. You're supposed to find it all in Roswell. You should have called me. I think that's about it. I know you're real tired of hearing from me. One other thing. The Fraser Street apartments that you've now decided should be 320 units instead of the existing 148 that has 60 cars maybe. Soon we'll have 450 cars. I did a little math after that meeting, and I don't think any of you thought about this, or perhaps you did. 450 cars, 2 trips a day, comes to about 500,000 more cars on Fraser Street and Norcross Street per year. 500,000. How is Fraser Street and Norcross Street and the intersection right there by the fire station going to handle 500,000 cars? And I happened to meet someone who goes to the Mormon church, and I said, you do know that people are going to get off of 400 at Holcomb Bridge, cut right down there, come right around the roundabout, and come sailing through. You will not be able to move on that street, and all this quality of life stuff you're talking about will be totally demolished. But none of you live in that area. You wouldn't like it if, well, can't you do? Nobody would, if you said we're going to make a development in your subdivision and it's going to put 500,000 cars more a year on your street, you would be out there picketing. You would be so upset, and it simply wouldn't happen. But since you don't live there, you don't really care. You're just seeing dollar signs. Now, I'm going to let it go, but last week when I got up and spoke about the $200,000 for the 0.8 of an acre of undevelopable property, when I left, one of the staff members here told me, Janet, just give it a rest. Well, let me tell you something. You don't tell me to give anything a rest. I've lived in this city for 40 years and paid my taxes, and if anybody here can say why I should give it a rest, talk to Rosa Parks, talk to Nelson Mandela, talk to Martin Luther King. I'm not in any scope like that, but I'm never going to give up the rights of the people to have mass transit and walking and a livable community.
Couple of points that I think were inaccurately stated. The $200,000 was land which was purchased in exchange for right-of-way with the National Park Service. The purpose was not to acquire parking for the City of Roswell, but for the National Park Service to exchange for right-of-way to widen South Atlanta Street eventually to 4 lanes so we could avoid the X's and O's and the potential danger. Janet Russell said there's no money spent from the general fund for Roswell recreation programs. There's about $525,000 spent from the general fund to support the pool and the other Roswell recreation programs. Who would like to speak next? Yes, ma'am, come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Sylvia Morrow-Noken. I'm a resident of 12 Stone Subdivision off Fouts Road. I'm an attorney, and I'm here to address some of the concerns I have with the proposed radio tower to be erected directly across the street from our swimming pool. Let me first say, I support our police and firefighters, and I want them to have the very best communication they can have to ensure that they can do their job safely and effectively. That's so important to all of us, and that is tremendous value to our community. With that being said, I believe the site that y'all have selected for this 400-foot radio tower in a residential subdivision surrounded on all sides by homes bought and paid for by your residents' hard-earned dollars, and on one side by East Roswell Park, which notably recently received the National Wildlife Certification. So this is an environmentally sensitive area, one might say, but a subdivision is also environmentally sensitive. We have families there. We have children there. We have people who come home after a hard day of work to relax and enjoy their surroundings. I take tremendous pleasure out of walking my dog around East Roswell Park. She and I log anywhere from 2 to 3 miles a day. We have some tremendous park resources in this city, but I will tell you, East Roswell Park is truly a gem. I'm very concerned that the City of Roswell, acting through the North Fulton Regional Radio Authority, proposes to erect this tower on Fouts Road. It is one of 3 towers that are planned as part of the radio communications network for our police and firefighters, our so-called first responders. In doing so, in erecting a tower 400 feet in height, and just to give scale, the Statue of Liberty is 305 feet tall. Think about that. This tower will extend nearly 100 feet higher than the Statue of Liberty. And it's being planned to sit smack dab in the middle of a residential area. It's very troubling to me that the City of Roswell took the time to formulate an ordinance that specifically addresses the appropriate location for these radio towers and for cell towers. Every aspect of that ordinance is being violated by the city as they have exempted themselves from the application of these ordinances in the interest of public safety. Even more troubling is that we as citizens have no one to represent or advocate for our interest, because the entity proposing this monstrous tower is the city of Roswell, the very people we look to protect our interest in the community. So you can imagine how frustrated we feel that this is even being considered. And when you stop and look at the timeline, we found out about this June 19th by an article in the Neighbor newspaper. We were invited shortly thereafter to attend an informational meeting in July. Now, I don't know about y'all, but most of the people I know are on vacation throughout June and July, preparing to return to school in August. And I don't think it's coincidental, maybe it is, I hope it isn't, that the meeting at which you will vote on this is the very day school starts, August 12th. What do you think our likelihood of getting anyone to turn out is going to be on the first day of school to voice their concerns about something this enormous? We know that there are many lesser options to a 400-foot tower. We also know that this is a duplication of taxation. I will tell you that being a simple person, I look at things dollars and cents. I may not be great at math, but put a dollar sign in front of it and I can usually figure it out. Fulton County is providing radio coverage for all of Fulton County, inclusive of these cities, via a contract with Motorola of Alpharetta at a cost of $19 million, give or take a nickel. The North Fulton Regional Radio Authority has entered into a contract, I understand, with Motorola to spend $16 million for this radio communications center. Once again, being simple, I find it hard to believe we're going to pay $35 million for $19 million worth of radio work. It's duplication. We are the only 4 cities in Fulton County who are going to have this duplication of service, and I think it's poorly conceived. I'm hopeful that over the next few weeks y'all will reconsider your position. I'm equally hopeful that you will delay any vote or any action on this bill or proposal before the city for at least 60 days, because you see, we've been asking informally for information, copies of contracts, for 3 weeks and have not received any of them. None of the environmental studies, the engineering studies that give rise to this. If we are ill-prepared to address you, we are at a loss. I am preparing to file an Open Records Act request tomorrow so that we can hopefully get our hands on these documents that have been requested for 3 weeks but not forthcoming. I really do hope y'all will rethink this idea. Roswell deserves better than this. Let's keep Roswell beautiful.
Just to make the record clear, the council has not selected any site. Staff is recommending the site on Fouts Road. Regarding the environmental engineering studies, none have been performed because the site has not been selected. The engineering studies and environmental studies, if required, would be done after a site is selected, because we don't want to spend money unnecessarily on a site that has not been selected. Yes, sir, come forward. I'll move back around the room. We'll give everybody a chance to speak before you leave tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for the chance to talk to you tonight. I'm here to speak against the Big Creek Parkway project, and I believe quite a few of us are.
Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
I'm at 125 Willow Stream Court, which is Willowbrook Townhomes, just along Warsaw Road.
And your name?
Don Perryman.
Thank you, Don.
I experience the congestion on Holcomb Bridge Road every day, and I understand the desire to alleviate that. I've been to the meetings, and the information I've been able to get, All of it tells me that what might help the situation on Holcomb Bridge Road will certainly harm the situation along Warsaw Road, and I'm sure in other areas that are not close to me. It's already heavily trafficked, with long stop-and-go delays at certain times of the day. I believe a Big Creek Parkway intersecting there and a possible connection of another road from Highway 9 that I just heard about recently that might be in the works will certainly increase traffic congestion for all of us in the area, even with added lanes, a roundabout, and whatever else. The possible alleviation of traffic congestion on Holcomb Bridge, which I question because I have seen situations where expansions are made and then people tolerate that much more traffic and it rises to the same level of congestion in spite of the attempted improvements. I believe it will clearly be at the expense of me and my neighbors. I'm appealing to anyone who will listen not to carry out this bad idea. I have a more critical concern, though. Increased flooding that will be the result of more impervious surface areas, less ability of heavy rains to soak in and or run off safely. Willowbrook, Roswell Creek Apartments, and I believe some homes in Liberty Square have flooded every 4 years on average in the past 30 years that I know of since I've been here. Labor Day weekend 1991 was my first flood. With 3 other homes flooded, one woman, she was an elderly lady who was working as a late night nurse, came in late that night, drove right into the lake, and was trapped in her car as the water rose, and she had to be rescued. Number of cars totaled, much damage to homes, many thousands of dollars. Mayor Wood, you were then the attorney who represented Elizabeth Salmon living at 1278 Warsaw Road, who was flooded along with the other 3 of us, and you were here with us in this chamber not long after that flood. I heard you tell then Mayor Mabry and the City Council that the greatest responsibility of a city government was the welfare of its citizens, and that something had to be done about the flood hazard in our neighborhood. It was not. In 2005, Hurricane Hugo brought heavy rains and 9 inches fell in a very short period, again flooding our 4 homes, destroying cars, damaging other property. I later discovered that one culvert draining the creek behind our homes has a 6-foot entrance and an exit that is only 5 feet in diameter. When we get heavy rains, Willowbrook becomes Willow Lake. This happened more recently and only avoided our homes by a few feet. Willowbrook becomes a holding pond, if you will. I've been told by city officials to get flood insurance, which of course I have. I have neighbors who have a very hard time affording any other insurance. The meetings and explanations I've been to have convinced me that this risk will increase if the Big Creek project goes through. On June 20th this year, I emailed Donnell Alloway, Roswell Water Resources engineer with whom I've met several times and exchanged several messages about this issue. And I copied Stuart Mooring, Director of Public Works, and you, Councilwoman Wynn. On July 1st, I heard from Ms. Alloway saying that she would let me know what measures would be taken to protect us from increased flooding as soon as she learned anything, and I look forward to hearing from her. At the recent meeting on this issue at St. David's Episcopal Church, I spoke with a representative from the company that apparently would be doing the project, and he told me that FEMA and DOT would not allow the project if it would increase the flood hazard. I was not reassured that this issue is getting sufficient attention or that any measures will be taken to keep the flood risk at the present unsatisfactory level, much less reduce it. I am appealing to you tonight to take into consideration not just the congestion and the other impacts on our communities here, but also this very real threat of increased flooding. Thank you.
Who would like to speak next? Yes, over here.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Joyce Cross. I live at 2300 12 Stones Drive, and that is in Roswell. I am a neighbor of Sylvia. You've heard from her just a few minutes ago. These are my neighbors. Tonight, I'm coming before you to tell you that myself, these people, and there are many, many others that we plan to have here August 12th, despite the fact that that will be the first night of school, that are vehemently opposed to building a 400-foot radio tower next door to our subdivision. There are neighbors in Martin's Landing and Horseshoe Bend, which are other neighborhoods, who also feel very strongly about this. I also second Sylvia's talk that we want our police and fire to have the very best radio system. We understand that they have problems. We want those problems to be solved, but we don't think we need to decimate a neighborhood in order to do that. We want our city council and our mayor to delay the vote that is supposed to take place August 12th for 60 days until more information can be gathered. We are awaiting information from the city itself that we have not received. So far we've been getting conflicting information. Fulton County authorities tell us that only a 300-foot radio tower is necessary. Your officials say a 400-foot radio tower is necessary. We can't get straight answers to the questions that we are posing here. On July 11th, Miss Love, Chief Grant, and Captain Sweeney told me, I was the only person at the informational meeting then, that there is no other site that would work than the site across from our subdivision. We have gathered information that there are many other sites in commercial and industrial areas that will work. They are at higher elevations. They have not been considered, and we are asking that there be time for you to consider those. If you go through with a 400-foot radio tower, you'll be in violation of your own ordinance in terms of setbacks and visual and environmental impacts on neighborhoods. This city council has gone on record in 2010 opposing a cell tower, a 175-foot cell tower. We're talking a 400-foot tower in the Lake Charles neighborhood. You voted unanimously against it because of the impact on property values, and because we don't have enough information on the impact on our property values. We want this vote delayed. The vote to build a 400-foot radio tower will impact the skyline of our city, the lives of our families for future generations to come. It will be your legacy as city council members and the mayor, and you need to make this decision with an informed mind, and I can't imagine you have that with the lack of information that's been exchanged to us. For this reason, we want our elected officials to postpone the August 12th vote for 60 days on this 400-foot radio tower. Let's keep Roswell beautiful.
Who would like to speak next? Yes, come forward, please.
Mr. Mayor, good evening, everyone. I'm Claudie Metcalf, and I live on the Bainbridge subdivision.
The microphone, please.
Oh, where is it? Oh, sorry. And we have fought the Big Creek Parkway for now 4 years. Make up your mind which way you want to go. First of all, you wanted to destroy Bainbridge subdivision by putting a road through our subdivision. If you look at your map, our subdivision is a wetland and also a wildlife area. Now you've decided somehow, because we fought this road through our subdivision, to keep on with Warsaw and reaching I-19. It's very difficult for us now to get out of subdivision, more so in 2 or 3 weeks when the school starts. The school bus, why do they stop in front of our subdivision? I don't know. Some of them do go inside the subdivision and into the apartment, sorry, not the subdivision. And it blocks the traffic for at least 20 minutes. In a short while, there will be people working at the GM building, which used to be UPS. 500 people are supposed to be employed in that area. Can you imagine the traffic on Warsaw with all these people? I am appalled that you have not made a good decision to save our subdivision. Roswell is a super city. Why can't we keep it that way and not destroy not only the people but also the wildlife and the park? Because by doing this new intersection that you will do, you will destroy Big Creek Park. And that would be a shame. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, please bear with me. I'm going to read. But before I do that, I'm Christine Hall. I'm with Liberty Square Subdivision. And if everyone here who is opposing the Big Creek Parkway off Warsaw Road would please stand up, just so we all know. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. As I said, I'm Christine Hall, and I object the Big Creek Parkway plan to siphon eastbound traffic off Holcomb Bridge Road onto Warsaw Road in a misguided and expensive attempt to help alleviate Holcomb Bridge traffic. There are 271 single-family, middle-income homes in Liberty Square, some of the very few lower to middle-income homes available to those who want to make Roswell their home. We are made up of hardworking families, many of which are immigrants, and we've all bought into the American dream. Unfortunately, the city of Roswell is turning our American dream into a nightmare. Our corridor of Roswell, or Warsaw Road, isn't even a mile long. It's just over 0.8 of a mile. Besides the subdivisions, townhouses, and apartments that share that 0.8 of a mile, there's also an elementary school, a senior citizen center, a daycare, and a church, all on a very small, already very heavily congested 2-lane corridor. During school hours, it can take up to 20 minutes to get out of our subdivision onto Warsaw Road. Many nights I've sat in traffic because Warsaw is backed up all the way to Old Roswell Road due to the congestion to get onto Holcomb Bridge. Besides the proposed parkway, the City of Roswell plans on taking our already heavily congested road and linking it up with Sun Valley Road, which will dump even more traffic onto Warsaw Road from Alpharetta Highway. We would see a huge influx of traffic coming onto our 0.8 of a mile corridor from the south, north, and west sides. In addition to the increase in traffic, this $42 to $50 million parkway would pave over and into a major wetland that feeds into the Fulton County water supply. Perhaps with the surplus of rain that we've had recently, we've forgotten how scarce drinking water can be for the area, particularly when we are required to share our limited water supplies with 2 neighboring states. Can a 60-foot wide road carrying an estimated 14,000 cars daily possibly be in the best interest of Fulton County? We don't understand, nor can we locate any reason why the council will no longer consider the much more viable Grimes Bridge solution, a road that is further west than Warsaw and already runs out to Georgia 400. Even the company hired by the city, GS&P, to find a solution to the problem, pointed out that the Grimes Bridge road would be shorter, cheaper, and had more favorable gradients and was much less harmful to the environment. I think if you look at the points made realistically and logically, you have to wonder why Roswell is dead set on making this happen on Warsaw Road. As a Roswell taxpayer, I think we are all entitled to an explanation as to why the simpler, cheaper solution is no longer being considered. I'm hoping that the answer isn't middle-class property versus affluent property issue, because I can't figure out any other reason why to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tim Equals. I live at 575 Campbellwood Drive. I'm the HOA board member for Crabapple Wood Subdivision. And first off, I wanted to thank all of you for your service to Roswell. This is not a place I want to be at 7 o'clock on Monday night, but I appreciate you taking the time to hear us. The issue I want to talk about deals with a zoning case that's coming up before you in several more weeks. It's been through the Planning Commission. They've approved it with certain conditions. And I don't have a lot of tech here, so I'm going to kind of draw on the air, but show you kind of a rough idea of what the item is. It's on Rucker Road and House, which goes north-south. And the subdivision is kind of like a fat L. It has all the units coming off of Rucker, and then there's an access road that goes over to House. If you look at the lot layout, it looks like sardines stuffed in a can, and then there's the access road. Well, combining the access road area, you kind of get a density of about 2.5 to 3 per acre, which is generally what the surrounding community is. But that doesn't tell the story, because they've added a lot of the access road acreage into the computation. So density is the issue, and plus arrangement. But the biggest thing that I had, being on the HOA, is that Crabapple Woods, which is the subdivision directly south, would be the immediate neighborhood south of this access road on the house. Well, there happens to be a lake on the property to the north, and they're proposing to build a road, that access road, over the berm of this lake. So we were very concerned about that. Not only is it going to be to the north of that, but it's right on the property line. So if you are a property owner on the north side, directly abutting that proposed road, you would be looking up at a road with all the traffic concerns if it was a public road. And also, in the comments made in the preliminary review by staff, the traffic engineer said, we will not, we being the city of Roswell, will not accept any portion of the road as a public road that is on top of this berm. And that's probably a wise decision on their part. However, what that means is that that would be a private road. And then who takes the risk of maintaining it? Who takes the risk of building it right and keeping it operational? Well, it's probably going to be, kind of like we are, a small HOA with about 50 homeowners and $10,000 in the bank. And that doesn't make any sense, because what it seems like is that if there's a risk of this road and making sure that it's maintained and built properly, then the best person to manage that risk would probably be the city. So either that road has to be built to standards that are acceptable and accepted by the city for maintenance and operation, or it shouldn't be put in there. Because what's going to happen is if it's not maintained and it's not looked after, these people actually will be sitting there, and one day that's going to come down into their backyard, or God forbid it'll come into their living room. They're that close. So we raised that issue, and I think you need to look at that very closely when that comes up. The second issue deals with stormwater. And I have a little bit of experience in stormwater. And the city of Roswell, by the way, wisely enacted a stormwater utility, a stormwater management program, and it's probably one of the first in the surrounding area to do so. This is a good opportunity to put some of those things into effect. There are existing stormwater serious issues on that property right now. There's a PowerPoint that we developed that we presented to the Planning Commission, and I think some of you may even have a copy of it. I know the Planning Department does, but it shows these existing conditions. And right now there's water running off, because that's where the high point is. There's water running off to the east and to the south. And it's causing damage already. Your stormwater manager, in their preliminary review, said basically that she did not think that this layout, the way it's currently configured, would meet the stormwater ordinance as it is now. So they're going to start working things out and do the review. But I think what we need to have, and you need to maybe pay pretty close attention to that when it comes up, but there needs to be some conditions, and the bottom line is density. Okay? There might have to be some adjustments in density so that you don't have as much impervious surface in a very stacked, short area. Because what happens with rainwater? It comes down and it's going to run off. If there's not a whole lot of buffer or there's not a whole lot of space in order to slow it down, it's going to go on to other people's property. Given the fact that there's existing problems, I would ask the council to closely look at those conditions relative to this access road and also relative to the stormwater issue. And then the third thing I have some background in is the traffic. Right now, that intersection at Howes and Rucker, in the AM, it's rated D. In the PM, it's rated F. Well, I don't know how worse you can get than F. I mean, you back up traffic all the way past the Catholic Church to the east on Rucker, and you're backing up traffic all the way down past Hembry to the south. So something has to be done there, and adding more density above the existing zoning doesn't make sense to me. So I'd like you all just to basically, if you can, take a little bit extra time, look at that stormwater ordinance, and look at that the problems with that access road that can protect the public, because both of those are very serious. So I'd like to thank you for your time.
First, I'd like to thank all of you for listening to me this evening. I, too, am talking about the Big Creek Parkway. My name is Carrie Garback. I live on Barrington Drive East, which accesses off of Old Alabama in Barrington Farms. I'm actually looking at it from the opposite side of 400 than the people who have spoken so far, since this cut-through will go all the way through to Old Alabama. I apologize, but I'm not aware if any of you live over in that area. But during rush hour in the morning, during rush hour in the morning, to get from my home, which is a mile down, to get to Holcomb Bridge Road, takes 20 minutes. And that's today. There are more than a half a dozen subdivisions that are accessible off of Old Alabama, and it's the only road we have to get out of our subdivision is to dump onto Old Alabama. My subdivision alone has 450 homes in it. That's not counting the other 5 or 6 subdivisions that are accessed off of Old Alabama that have to do the exact same thing our 450 homes have to do every single day to get to and from work. Again, school's about to start. Traffic is going to be back up to that 20-25 minutes just to get from my house to Holcomb Bridge Road, and that's 1 mile. This cut-through is said that it's, from everything that I saw drawn up, what you're looking at is it's going to cut through to Old Alabama, and that's where it ends. So you've got one end on the west side of 400, the other end on the east side from the drawings that I had seen. I'm hoping you're not going to pursue that direction, one, based on the traffic, but also based on the wetlands area. Behind my home, I butt up to a portion of the reservoir overflow, and deer and other wildlife are able to traipse back and forth between our homes. It's already dangerous for them now trying to get further and further toward the road because there's so much traffic. If you add another road anywhere near there, it's going to limit the wildlife's opportunity to thrive. Excuse me, and I would hate to see that happen. The interesting thing that I found out about this whole plan and the pieces that I've seen is that there were other drawings that were dismissed for some reason, and one of them was near Grimes Bridge, which looked like a good idea at the time. But for whatever reason, the plan had changed, and I found out about it by accident because I have friends who live on the the west side of 400. There have been no notices. There have been no discussions, no signage, no leaflets, flyers, anything distributed on the east side of 400, making us pretty much oblivious, other than the occasional email I've been sending out when I hear little snippets here and there. We have asked the newspapers to become a little bit more involved in being informative of when this issue is being discussed and when meetings are being held. So I just wanted to make sure all of you are aware of that. All I can say is that I hope you take a close look at the plans that are currently designed and take into consideration the enormous amount of traffic this is going to add and not really clear up by putting this road through and spending all of our taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Distinguished Mr. Mayor, please allow me for a few minutes to express my concern about the location of the whereabouts for the projected connector between Warsaw Road and Sun Valley Road. I'm a 80 years old senior citizen. Jason Chen.
Go ahead. Name and address.
My name is Jason Chen.
And your address, Jason?
4206 Timber Creek Circle.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'm 80 years old, senior citizen with I'm incapacitated with lumbar spine and cervical spine problems. So I'm a non-driver, so I'm heavily dependent on the Walmart and also the number 85 bus stop right in front of the Walmart parking lot. So I was rather concerned about the traffic due to the project. So in comparison with the benefits of the benefit for the city, my concern is nothing to be compared. So I hope this my private concern is to be taken into serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. To my right here. Yes.
Hi, my name is Deborah Sanders, and I live at 9025 Bridgestone Court in 12 Stones with my husband and 2 children. And I want to apologize to everybody here about the child that's been screeching outside. That's mine. Sorry. I just have a few words to say. I'd like to preface my words by saying that I am a registered nurse, and I am not opposed to improving emergency services. However, I take issue with the Fouts Road location. I am concerned with what I took away from the recent information meeting at the East Roswell Park. Number 1, it appears the town of Roswell wants to duplicate costly services with Fulton County. This is a waste of taxpayer money. If I am incorrect in regard to that, I'd like someone to provide me the information that I am incorrect. Number 2, This project has been underway for 3 to 5 years, as we were told. We're being told that this property was bought in June 2013 on Fouts Road, and it is the only site that this tower can be placed. We've never seen the report. I believe it's by Comdex. We asked for it. We want to see why this site was chosen. I think that that is only fair for us to know. We have requested it, and it was never given to us. And we requested it several weeks ago at this information meeting. So there's a lack of transparency. That's how we see it. Number 3, I spoke to 2 high-ranking police officers. I'm not going to say who, but if you ask me, I will state who they were, who gave me conflicting information regarding the tower and whether or not I would see it from the back of my home. We all looked at the same map, I pointed to the same house, and I got conflicting information as to whether or not I'd see this tower. And that is really disconcerting as far as this information discrepancy is going. It makes me wonder if the town really understands the dimensions of this 400-foot tower as far as the footprint, etc., etc. Number 4. In addition, we were told that there are really no health risks involved with this tower being placed. However, I did go online, okay, and I am a nurse also, I'm going to repeat that. There are no long-term health care risk studies related to those families and individuals who live in the shadow of a radio tower 24/7, I might add. Finally, on a personal note, my husband is a Roswell native who grew up in Martin's Landing. He described to me Roswell as a pro-family, pro-community, pro-environment town. We are appalled that Roswell would place such an intrusive tower that cannot even be disguised so incredibly close to our community. I hope the mayor and city council will do the right thing and vote to oppose this Fouts Roads radio tower, or at a minimum, vote to delay the vote 60 days until further information is evaluated and shown to us as requested. Let's keep Roswell beautiful, and thank you all for listening to my concerns.
Hi, how you doing tonight?
Great.
I'm Glenn Renfro. I live at 1155 Worthington Hills Drive. And first to you guys, y'all's discussion on the radio tower. We might have some signs from Liberty Square. We had to fight that about 5 years ago, but not for this, but for another. I think we got some signs left over for you. Okay, guys, I just wanted to kind of bring up to you, this is a discussion for the Big Creek Parkway. I want to talk to you about a community level. I live in the Liberty Square subdivision, so I'm going to talk about the community, the area outside of Liberty Square. I'm going to talk to you at a neighbor level. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my neighbors and myself, and then I'm going to talk to you about it at a personal level. The community level is that if you try to cross Warsaw, at peak traffic, either in the morning or in the evening, it is quite hazardous. In the afternoon, since I live off of Worthington Hills Drive, it is oftentimes where you'll see traffic heading toward Holcomb Bridge Road, where the traffic will actually be blocked all the way up to Singing Hills Drive. So that is pretty significant and hard to cross. Also, in the mornings, it takes you from Worthington Hills Drive to, and this is during school, by the way, with that traffic from Worthington Hills Drive to Old Roswell, it takes about 30 minutes. And when I asked that, since they're going to be taking out the Worthington Hills portion of the road access to Warsaw, that only leaves us really one exit out of our community, I said, what are we going to do about the traffic on Warsaw Road, since we're going to be putting Big Creek Parkway there with the Sun Valley Drive? What's the impact going to be? How are you going to deal with it? And they said, well, we haven't thought that far yet. I'm like, well, I think you need to. The second thing is they also asked me what's my opinion of what we should do to alleviate traffic on Holcomb Bridge Road. I'm like, well, I'm not an expert, but if you want to, non-residents should have to pay a toll to be on Holcomb Bridge Road. Might want to consider that. No, just teasing. But if you could, please consider the Grimes Bridge Road option. At a neighborhood level, what I want to talk to you about is a little bit about my neighbors. The neighbor to my left has been there for 30 years. She is one of the people who bought the house directly from, this is a little 30 years, but from 1978, so a little bit more than that, of course. My neighbor to my left has been there 6 months. And if they knew that, and after talking with them, that if they knew that they were going to be building a road over her new house or behind it, she probably wouldn't have bought the house. So what does that do to our property values and look? And this person also said, well, be honest with you, I was going to tell my friends to move into this neighborhood, move into Roswell, which is going to be like a middle-class type of people. And they're like, well, I don't want to if they're just going to build a road over your house. And I'm like, I can understand that. The neighbors up from her, they have been living there for 17 plus years. Keep going down. I've lived here for 15 years. So why would we want to destroy a perfectly good neighborhood just to build a road? On a personal level, I want to go ahead and raise to you as well. Oh, let me go back to the neighborhood level. I see two neighbors that live way downstream from us, down the road. They live in a lower area. I don't know what the permeable surface is going to be, removal, so that they can build the asphalt, what kind of flooding is going to happen to them. I can only imagine. But on a personal level, I'm what my neighbors call ground zero. Being on Worthington Hills, we're one of the houses considered to be condemned so that they can build a road over it. The offer that I said, if I have to go for eminent domain and y'all decide to take the house, what would be the value? And they said, be county assessed plus 20%. Considering that I lost 27% of my value in the last assessment, I did some research. I said, where else in Roswell could I go? And the answer was nowhere. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for giving me a chance.
To correct some misinformation, the price is set by appraisal at the time of acquisition, which would be some years hence.
Right.
And it is not set by the city does not take the county tax assessment as a beginning point. If negotiations are unsuccessful and condemnation is necessary of whether it's your piece of property or whatever piece of property it's done with, the city hires an appraisal to appraise the property, and the taxes are not really relevant. Who'd like to speak next? Yes, sir, come forward.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Preston Schermeyer. I live at 2295 12 Stones Drive, and of course I'm here to talk about the tower. Just want to say that thank you to Chief Rusty Grant and Captain Ed Sweeney. They've been very helpful in giving me information about this tower. I want to say that we want them to have the system that they need. We want it to be at minimum taxpayer expense, and we would like it to be in a way that doesn't affect people the way that this tower would affect us. And I know that there's alternatives that could be reached that do not put a 200 or a 400-foot tower. I want to talk about some of the numbers here that are just staggering. The 400-foot tower would be 200 feet from our pool. I did some survey. I walk in East Roswell Park every day. I did a little measuring and survey, and if they would put it at the highest point on the property that was purchased, that would be 138 feet from Fouts Road. Now, you know the own city ordinance says that a cell tower must be set back from the property line as far as that tower is tall. Now, this 400-foot tower would be 200 feet from our pool. It would literally, if it fell, and I'm not saying that it would, if it did, though, it would fall over our pool and hit the building where our restrooms are on the other side of the pool. It's within 350 feet of 3 homes in our neighborhood. So it's within homes that would be protected by the property line radius of a city ordinance for a tower, a cell tower. Now, I know this is not a cell tower. It's going to be an emergency radio tower, but it emits on the same frequencies, and it could also be leased out to cell tower equipment in the future. We've asked the North Fulton Regional Radio Authority if they would guarantee us that wouldn't happen, and they could not make that guarantee. In fact, they would probably end up sharing it with a Fulton County if they decide to do dual systems. So that means there'll be 2 radios on that. It's within 7 homes of the tower height itself. So there's 7 homes that are affected within the radius of what would normally be an ordinance-protected area. I'd also like to point out that when we first found out about this we heard that the vote was going to be on July 22nd. That would have been a week ago. So that shows that the North Fulton Regional Radio Authority was not giving a lot of consideration to people to have some time to speak their mind about it, to find out more about it. So again, we'd like to see a delay on that vote. They did tell us that it had been moved to the 12th when we arrived at the informational meeting that Chief Grant gave to us and Captain Ed Sweeney. And again, I want to thank them because they gave me a lot of great information and they were very forthcoming. And they've been very helpful. We also found out that the land that was purchased for this site was purchased on June 30th. We were told that the land was going to be purchased anyway to help expand the park. And that's fine, but you have to understand how that looks when we know that the site was selected on Fouts Road before that date, and then we see that the land was purchased before 22 days before the vote to actually use that site would have occurred. So ultimately, the North Fulton Regional Radio Authority has not been very forthcoming, and I believe that Johns Creek, one of the reasons they said that they were not going to participate was because they didn't like the way that they were behaving in the process. I may be wrong about that, but that's what I've heard. Also would like to think maybe there could be some better solutions outside of using these huge towers all throughout Roswell, of which another fact that we haven't pointed out is that Roswell is spending more money in the North Fulton Regional Radio Authority than any other city that's participating, and we're also taking a burden of more towers than any other area. And I understand that that's probably because geography, but it still seems like we're getting the short end of the stick on that when maybe we could work with Fulton County and come up with a much better solution. And I understand that the North Fulton Regional Radio Authority is now working more with Fulton than they had been when we first found out about this plan. So I would think that that might open up some more alternative sites that aren't, I know that when they first looked, they were looking for city-owned property. But with the cooperation of Fulton, I think that could open up a lot more sites that we could maybe find where this tower would go and it wouldn't be so close to homes. I've personally found sites that meet the requirements of the city, that are on city property, that are the right elevation. After talking to Captain Sweeney, he said they have to be over 10,000 or 1,050 feet. The site that is proposed at is a little over 1,100. I've found sites that meet that requirement and that are within the closest house of 800 feet, the next closest house of 1,000 feet. So I've found myself better sites. So I'd like to see the vote delayed and hope that we can avoid putting this thing right outside of our neighborhood. Let's help keep Roswell beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you to City Council, Mayor Wood, for this opportunity to share my thoughts on the Big Creek Parkway project today. I'd also like to commend your ability to get young adults active in the local government, but my goodness, threatening my home, that's a great way to go about doing it. For the record, my name is Morgan Oswald Eston. I live at 1145 Worthington Hills Drive. I'm Glenn's neighbor, the one that bought the house 6 months ago. I didn't move in until the end of March. I'm a marketing coordinator working at a founding B corporation. Like I said, I live at 1145 Worthington Hills Drive with my boyfriend, a Marine who served in Afghanistan, and my big Bernese Mountain Dog who has gone through pet therapy training. We're the kind of people I would think you would want to attract to Roswell. Young, active professionals who will participate in the community, spend our date nights in historic Roswell, and attend the local festivals and events on the weekends. In January, when I placed an offer on my first home at the age of 25, never did I ever expect to be standing in front of you today. Instead, I was excited to have found a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom home with a 2-car garage and a fenced backyard for the dog within my meager budget of $105,000. I knew I wanted a home in Roswell. In fact, I had searched a 5-square-mile radius looking for this perfect house. By doing so, I knew I would have an easy commute to work, to my parents' home in Norcross where I had been living, to the farm on Arnold Mill Road where I keep my horse. They'd all be within just a few short miles. for sure, a home in Roswell meant location, location, location. And with this one, I could put 20% down and do the responsible thing. I saw a great starter home in what we call the 1145. Affordable housing with room to start a family and grow into. I purchased this house before it was ever even listed. However, a week after we closed on the house and before we even moved in, I found out about the Big Creek Parkway proposal. At first, I was told by my neighbors that a road was planned to go in behind our homes. But I attended one of the informational meetings and quickly found out that one of the two proposals had my home, along with 22 others, slated for demolition. Moving day, the day when you move into your first house, which should be really joyous, it was bittersweet, to say the least. As we carried our furniture across the threshold, I couldn't help but wonder when we'd be moving again, just leaving an empty home for bulldozers to clear off in our wake. With the Big Creek Parkway proposal, my home is on the list of 23 homes to be demolished. Liberty Square, a wonderful neighborhood for young professionals like myself buying their first home. Like Glenn mentioned, I have two different couples, friends, who would love to move into the neighborhood. But when they hear this news, they're not so sure they want to move in. As you consider the proposed alignments, please keep in mind that this neighborhood is one of the few entry-level neighborhoods which make living in Roswell a possibility for people like me. So, again, as you think about Big Creek Parkway and its various proposed alignments, I hope you make the right decision to continue to welcome folks like me to your city and that you don't yank the freshly placed welcome mat from under my feet.
Mayor, councilmen, councilwomen, my name is Paula Harper Hill, and I'm a long-term resident, 18 years at 1135 Worthington Hills Drive. Morgan and Glenn are my neighbors. I bought my home here in 1996 because it was an affordable and convenient neighborhood in which to live. Over the years, I became a business owner and have contributed my fair share of taxes to both Fulton County and the city of Roswell. When the city proposed first the building of Big Creek Parkway, I thought that the replacement of the troublesome apartment buildings, of which my property backs up to, might be a welcomed addition to the community. The many police issues that emanated from the apartments included gunfire, unlicensed businesses, brothels, murders, and many other crime sources, never ceasing to amaze us, and more than not, making us feel less than secure in our own home. I also felt at first that having a walking trail and bike path might be an attractive addition to those of us that enjoy exercising, and that the proposed parkway might improve our property values. However, the meetings I attended did not answer the most important questions the parkway posed. What would be the answer to the dumping of the triple and quadrupling of traffic on Warsaw, which at rush hour is already backed up in all directions, including Old Roswell, Mansell, and of course Holcomb Bridge? No suitable answer was given. What would be the impact of such an increase of traffic due to the elementary school that's located there? No suitable answer was given. How would the DOT take care of the residents being able to enter and exit our community? Other than a roundabout and closing off our street, no answer was given. And even if the powers that be had a reasonable answer, how can we believe them when the traffic light they installed with the left turn signal on Old Roswell and Warsaw doesn't even work half the time? How would this affect our tenuous property values? Answer was given. We went to every meeting we were aware of. You were told that we had flyers and postcards and emails. No. The last meeting, yeah. Before that, signs on Warsaw. For the first 2 years, I didn't even know what Big Creek Parkway was. All of a sudden, there was a new plan. We missed one meeting that we were aware of. Morgan's father went, came back and told us that we were slated for demolition in one of the plans. Okay, plan to take our home, split up our neighborhood, have half of our street facing the parkway, and only allowing them access one way to enter and exit to their homes. And that's totally unacceptable. Excuse me, I have to read this because I get a little emotional. When my husband and I attended the next meeting, we were met with patronizing answers to our questions. One representative, when asked how long before we would know the City Council's decision on what course is going to be taken, sometime in July they'll make a final decision, maybe. Another representative told me that it would be 8 to 10 years before any construction would take place. And after all, who knows where you're going to be living in 10 years? Well, I knew. I was planning to retire there. My neighbors down the street bought 30 years ago. They're in their 80s. They plan to retire there. The final straw was the answer to the seeming head of this task force, the gentleman in that blue suit over there on the right. I'm sorry, I don't know his name. He had an answer for one of the residents that asked him, innocently, well, if the parkway goes in behind our homes, what's the speed limit going to be? And he laughed and said, 99 miles an hour. Unbelievable. I was aghast. This is not a joke to the residents of this community. It's a serious business. Levity and sarcasm directed us during this process shows us just how we're being thought of as junk in the way of somebody putting their name on a parkway for their ego. I'm sorry if I upset you with what I'm saying. But it seems like just get rid of us or work around us. Do what you want to do. Ask yourselves, would you want this project in your backyard or across your front yard? I think we know the answer to that. This neighborhood is full of families that can't afford to have their homes ripped out from under them or their property values devalued any more than they already are. A lot of them are first-time buyers, like I said before, retirees, young families. A lot of us are underwater in our mortgages. And with what the city would pay for our homes would leave us nothing in which to relocate, even if we could find comparable value home, which there's not. Some of us may even be stuck with the balance, the difference, and have to fight with an attorney, with the banks. And some of us have just put in thousands of dollars into our homes in remodeling and making improvements, like the neighbor on the other side of Glen, completely redid her home. She was really upset, to say the least, when she found out about this. So upset she didn't come to the meeting. A lot of us are trying to recoup these falling values that seem to be coinciding with the property statements that we just got. I lost $28,000 this past year in my property value, and everybody in our neighborhood is experiencing very close to that, if not more. The proposed parkway is really a road to nowhere. It'll take traffic from one area and it's going to dump it in another, creating another issue. An issue we're going to have to live with, you're not. We've all worked hard to purchase our homes, and we take pride in the homes that we have. And don't forget the environmental issue. We haven't even touched on that. We're just talking about our houses. We're all used to being lied to by our government. It's becoming more so, but we're not fools. I, for one, don't appreciate my tax dollars being spent in this way. I worked hard to send you that money. It's not your money, it's ours. And being spent on projects like this, creating new problems with far worse result, I don't wish to be patronized any longer. We've been patronized for 4 years. You need to tell us what you're going to do. You decide what we have to do. We're going to fight it by all means necessary. You can't destroy our community, displace families, endanger our children, and with the increased traffic around Mimosa Elementary. Who's going to feel really good when the first kid gets killed out there with all that traffic that's been increased on that road? I hope that you will feel like you killed them, because that's what's going to happen. It may not happen the first year or two, but it's going to happen. We know it is. In summary, we have some friends that have been wanting us to move to Ecuador or Costa Rica to retire with them. When I asked them about the corrupt government down there, and again, only take offense if the shoe fits. They said, corrupt government, and they laughed. They said, hey, at least they're openly corrupt. They'll stick out their hand and ask for money. Here they'll smile at you, tell you what you want to hear, and then they'll take you for everything you got. So I appreciate you listening to me. I hope you think about what you're trying to do with the towers, with our homes, a parkway that goes nowhere. I wouldn't sit in your shoes for all the tea in China.
Mayor Wood, City Councilors, Ms. Love, Mr. Halsey. My name is Thayer Gallison. I live at 8990 Ridgestone Court in East Roswell in the 12 Stones neighborhood. And I am here to discuss my opposition to the radio tower that is planned or contemplated to be put on a plot of land just near our house. I came with without written remarks today, not because I don't care, but because I'm a busy guy who had to hurry here from work. In fact, I hurried to get ready this morning. I hurried to get my daughter ready. Got to hurry to get her to daycare so that my wife can work. I hurry to work, hurry home from work, hurry to eat, hurry to go to bed. In fact, I think that a lot of times work kind of is my sanctuary because my job is to keep people from hurrying. I analyze investments, and no one in our network can sell any investment that my team has not voted on and said is acceptable. And I have people constantly all day long hitting me from every side. Sell this, sell that. This is a great investment. That's a great investment. But at the end of the day, it's my job to look out for all of the thousands of clients that we have to make sure that they don't get sold a Ponzi scheme, that they don't get sold something that's worthless or poorly researched. A lot of times I'll get people, even in my own network, who will have been turned against me by that person who wants to sell the investment, and they'll say to me, well, why can't I do it? And I'll give them a perfectly reasonable explanation. And actually the CEO's told me, as long as you have a reasonable explanation, I'll always back you. So I'll give them a reasonable explanation, and most people will understand it. They'll listen, they'll hear it, and then they'll say, thank you for looking out for me. But there are always some people who don't go that way. They want to know, I hear what you're saying, but you shouldn't be the one making that decision, I should be. And my question to them at the end of the conversation is usually, well, what's the hurry? We've got reasons why we wouldn't do it, so why are we hurrying to do it? So about a month ago, I sent an email to everyone on the podium here today, with the exception of you, Mr. Halsey, and I asked, is this really the only site where this radio tower at this height can be placed? And Mayor Wood was kind enough to reply and say, well, if you could propose some other sites, that'd be great. I actually went out to a couple places that I thought would be more appropriate, and as I did that and started talking to people in my neighborhood, I realized that they were already doing that, and that there was work being done behind the scenes by my great neighbors to try to figure out other sites. And in the meantime, in the month since that's passed, realized that there are a lot of issues that have come up that I frankly don't know the answers to. Are there 2 tower sites? Is the Fulton County Radio Commission looking at another site within the park? And if so, could we do one instead of 2 towers? How much money is that going to cost? Is there going to be a duplication of extra spending of taxpayer money for duplication of services? The heights and ordinances, I'd never heard that before, but it makes perfect sense. I happen to live in one of the houses where, well, maybe the tower wouldn't hit it if it fell, but it would come really close. And it would absolutely would hit the pool. I realize that this is unlikely to happen, but that just thinking about that and in your own home is something that, quite frankly, is worrisome. What gets me is that the city manager of Johns Creek decided that he didn't want to be, and his town, his city, didn't want to be part of this commission because they felt like the process was moving too fast and that it had not been bid properly. That is a huge open question to me, in addition to the others. Like, what will the impact be on our property values? I don't know because we haven't had time to actually do a proper study. What are the health impacts of these towers? My guess is not much, but I don't know. There's been no time to really research it. So the one thing I want to leave with everyone in the room today is that when you vote on the location for the tower, or you decide when that vote will be, what's the hurry?
Hello, Mayor, Council. It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen. I've got more ways than one. One of the things I wanted to... I'm sorry. My name's Frank Eastland, 1660 Bainbridge Way. I wanted to give an opinion. I wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but I did want to give an opinion that is a little... different than the viewpoint that has been expressed today about the Big Creek Green Parkway. One of the things as a homeowner in the Bainbridge subdivision, we're right off of Warsaw, not far from Holcomb Bridge Road. And the people that have talked about the congestion on Warsaw is completely correct. The Warsaw is really tough during the peak hours, school time, and so forth. One of the things that I've been following the proposal for a few years now, and I've been studying it from both sides of the issue, and I've really determined myself that the project is maybe a good one. It ends up that from the property values in that area, the property values are depressed. A lot of it due to, say, in my personal opinion, due to the crime in the area, the apartments that are across the Warsaw from us, and some of the non-maintained rental houses that are in our area too. So I don't know how we're going to address that, but that is a far bigger issue, I think, than a lot of the traffic. However, on the proposal for Big Creek Parkway, in looking at the plans, I believe that the city is, if we're looking at Alternative 1 and Alternative 2, Alternative 1 goes through Liberty Square and goes through 23 houses and some apartment buildings. Option 2 goes outside of that and only eliminates some of the apartment buildings. So, and I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, you may be looking at Alternative 2, hopefully. On the other hand, too, if you're still considering Grimes Bridge, that does appear to be a better solution, I guess, especially for north of Holcomb Bridge Road. Now, on the other hand, to the property owners along Warsaw, one of the things that if we look at that stretch of property from Holcomb Bridge to Old Roswell and Mansell, it's pretty depressed. You know, it's the view is not good now. The there's little access to the school, very tough to get around there besides with a motor vehicle. With the new proposal on Big Creek Parkway, it's a multimodal system, well thought out. It looks well planned to me. Not only does it maintain 2 lanes of traffic, which Warsaw already has, but it also adds a bike lane on each side of the lane, of the motorized lane. It also has a pedestrian walkway, and then it also has a multi-use path. So now people like Mr. Chen and some of the other members of the community that don't have the privilege of driving vehicles, now they can access different parts of our community, either by pedestrian traffic or bicycle or other non-motorized means. So one of the things from the value community value standpoint, I believe that this whole project would possibly increase our property values. It'll certainly make this area look more beautification of it. It'll make it multimodal, so that we're not limited to just having cars on the road, and it's going to be difficult to get more cars on Warsaw during rush hour traffic than we have already. So with the other thing too, it connects different parts of Roswell that we have not had access to now, unless it has been with motorized vehicles. So I do want to say it's a job well done on the overall project, I think. And I want some of the other members of the community to consider some of the positive benefits of it also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Camille Sant, and I live at 1345 Parkmont Drive in Liberty Square subdivision. And actually, before I share with you what I came up here specifically to say, I would like to ask a question of our transportation chief, if I can. It was my understanding at the last meeting for the Big Creek Parkway that I was told, or it was my understanding from what I was told, that the improvements to Warsaw Road north of the Parkway are not included in the Parkway package. Yes, that is correct.
Steve Asenbrack, 11855 Mountain Laurel Drive. I'm not prepared to answer that question yet, and I'll tell you why. We are in the process, as you know, of designing this project to meet federal guidelines. And that, one of the issues with federal guidelines is that it has to meet the need and purpose. That's a federal requirement. We do an environmental document, the wetlands and those sorts of things. Well, one of the things that's involved in the need and purpose is what they call logical termini, where it starts and where does it end. So we're having a big debate within the department about whether the improvements on Warsaw Road are part of the need and purpose of this document. It's a very complicated series of issues. Let me say, we as a staff completely agree and understand the issues on Warsaw. That is without question. I want to make sure everybody understands that. We get Warsaw. The issue is whether it's part of this project. So it will take one of two flavors. It will either be part of this project, approved by the state, approved by Federal Highway, and we'll go forward with that. Or it won't be part of this project, and we'll make it another part that is part and parcel, but it won't be under this umbrella. So that's as easy as I can explain this. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes. So that does help. However, it helps clarify it. My concern is that unless it is determined that that is part of this project, your efforts to get this project funded do not guarantee that those improvements are actually going to happen in any, while you guys are council members, right? So putting it off as it will be another road project sometime in the future, part of what we want to do. I imagine that you have a huge list of road projects for which that is equally true, all things that you would like to get done. I just wanted to clarify after the previous gentleman who spoke that, yes, those pretty pictures of Warsaw's improvements are very lovely to look at, but I have not heard anything that tells me that those are actually going to happen once you fund the Big Creek Parkway. Thank you. So, and that's my major concern about the project. I oppose it in general for a whole lot of reasons. I've sent all of you an email, a letter delineating all of my concerns about the project. And some of you have been kind enough to speak to me and share some of your concerns about it, and I do appreciate that. Given that I suspect that this is going to go forward, my huge concern in how it goes forward now with some new information that I have about the Sun Valley Drive project is that Warsaw Road be included in your considerations all the way from Highway 9. I read an article recently that the extension of Sun Valley Drive from Highway 9 to Mansell Road, which is Warsaw Road Extension, it's basically the same road that our neighborhood is on, is the Transportation Department's top priority right now, that project is supposed to go forward. Well, from where I sit in Liberty Square with Big Creek Parkway being contemplated right in our backyard, you really can't consider the parkway to be a Holcomb Bridge Road to Holcomb Bridge Road project, particularly not once that Sun Valley Drive extension happens to Warsaw Road. If you're coming south on Highway 9 and you want to go to East Roswell, and there's this handy-dandy bridge that takes you there without getting through a Georgia 400 interchange, of course you're going to cut through and then go across on the parkway. That's only logical. And I'm sure that the consultants who did the traffic flow studies, and that's why, my understanding again, is that's why the project is on the north side and not on the Grimes Bridge Road, because the north side passage took more traffic off the roads than did the Grimes Bridge alternative. If you make it even easier for people to get to that from Warsaw Road, that's going to be their preferred route. But because that project, that Sun Valley Road extension, I don't even know if the consultants knew about that, but I'm quite certain that asking that question, if you could turn off at Sun Valley Drive to get over there, would you do it? That wasn't a question that they asked. So I don't think that there's going to be data that would tell you whether or not my suggestion is accurate. But my suggestion is that absolutely that's what people would do because that's logical. And in fact, that's what you guys say you want them to do, is to get away from the interchanges and take this for local traffic to have an easier route to access East Roswell. And that's all fine, but you have to then not stop at Mansell Road. You have to consider that it's going to come all the way down to the Parkway and really all the way down to Holcomb Bridge Road, because people will also take that even if they want to get on 400. So I just want to strongly urge you to consider these two projects together as one unit when you think about funding either one of them, because they can't be considered in isolation. Now, I also recognize that there is a small section of our road, of Warsaw Road, that is not within the city limits of Roswell. So it's not under your technical control, but I think it's irresponsible for you not to consider that the impacts of what you're doing are really going to go through that whole section, right? Just because there's, I don't know, it's maybe 0.2 of a mile of that road that aren't in the city limits of Roswell. It's a very small section. just because it's not within our jurisdiction doesn't mean that you can just ignore it and say, oh, well, one project stops right up there at Mansell Road and the other one starts at Old Roswell. They're one project. It's one thing. It's one road. And it is heavily trafficked by pedestrians. I mean, I do drive, and I still walk on that road. I walk. In fact, that's why I bought my house, because I could walk to places. I can walk to the library. I can walk to the post office. There wasn't a Walmart when I bought my house, but I can now walk to Walmart if I want to. So I could walk to Starbucks. I can walk places. That's why I live there. I hate that the city of Alpharetta doesn't have a sidewalk on Old Roswell Road going towards Mansell. When you come up Warsaw and you take a right on Old Roswell, the sidewalks end there. I have seen people pushing wheelchairs on that road. It's unconscionable that the sidewalk ends. There's also no sidewalk on Warsaw between Old Roswell and Mansell. And again, it's terrible. Women pushing children in strollers. You have to walk in the street or walk on a very steeply sloped edge for a small section of the road there in order to get along that road. It's awful. So the idea that this beautiful parkway will end at Old Roswell and then something else that's really great starts up, at Mansell and goes north on Old Roswell Road Extension, but you just can't do that. It's not in isolation. So I don't know what you need to say to the city of Alpharetta in order to get that road to be part of this project. But you really, that's your job. You guys need to represent us because your citizens are using that section of road. So you need to represent us and get with Alpharetta and make sure that they're on board with whatever it is that you're doing. And that if those projects go through and you do build these roads, that you consider the impact for pedestrian safety, children's safety. There's an elementary school, 2 daycares, and a senior center on Warsaw Road. Not to mention that, the huge numbers of people who are middle and lower income families that tend to do a lot of walking in those districts. So I just want to urge you in the strongest way that I can to please consider the Sun Valley Drive extension and the Big Creek Parkway as one unit and how they're going to impact each other should both projects get funding. Thank you.
For the record, Roswell has already asked to meet with Alpharetta on how these roads will be working together. Yes, sir, in the back.
Good evening.
Also, for the record, at 9 o'clock we're going to be taking a short break. The meeting will not be concluded, but we'll have a short break for my council members.
Good evening. My name is Phil Lunny. I've lived at 9460 Hillside Drive in Roswell for the last 27 years. And I'm not really part of any of these groups. I just wanted to comment on how the Roswell Rec has taken such good care of my family over the years. And these days, they take very good care of me, a recreational walker, like some of the other folks here. And coming to a meeting about 2 months ago, I listened to some of the boredom that you guys go through on these projects. And it's tedious. I mean, I wanted to leave after a half hour. But I came out with a couple of issues. The real issue I'm here is because we treat our recreational walkers so well. And in every project coming forward that I've talked about, like Holcomb Bridge, where you go past Horseshoe Bend and all of a sudden it's tree, roots, dirt, whatever, that's going to be part of the next project. And that Eves Road is going to be part of that. Since November, I've walked 1,000 miles. And I've walked, I believe, every trail in every park. And just today, and this last weekend, what the people did down at the river trail with clearing away the branches, putting new gravel down, just exceptional work. It goes on, and it really is a pleasure. And hearing that when you were talking about projects a few weeks ago, how you want to allow the pass-through so that neighborhoods don't become these little islands. I came from Philadelphia, and we all knew how to get through the neighborhoods. And I think we need more and more of that. And I think in walking, I now walk to the mall. Slide through the neighborhood, up Old Alabama, cross over Holcomb Bridge, you better be quick. Take a little up and over, and then hit the Big Creek Park. And it seems to me there that there's a road opportunity right there. Because if you walk right down, and I have, right down to the creek, you can't get across at this time of the year. At least I haven't found it. But there's a spot there that would take you right from Old Alabama over to Mansell. And then when you do that, and you take the Greenway, and then you come up on Mansell, and then you cross back over, and you want to go to Lowe's, and I said, boy, there's got to be a way out of the back of Lowe's that I could just walk over to Holcomb Bridge. Ain't there. But it does appear that there'd be an access along that side of 400. So I just hearing all this, and the tower can't hit me, but it would seem that the water plant would be a great place for that tower, because it doesn't seem to be anything around it. I live 200 yards from what is now Esther Jackson. You can't zone me out of anywhere. But I think that we really ought to think about some of these ways that we might be able to change our perspective a little. Keep the walking, because the walking is great. I mean, to do a 10-mile back and forth to the mall, and get an Annie M's and an Orange Julius as a reward. I mean, it's just fascinating on a day like this, and to see Alive at 5 and all the things you do. And I don't know about anybody else, but I have my wife drop me off at Oxbow and Atlanta Street, and I have a nice walk home after this. And I have to make a choice. Do I go down Atlanta Street and have a sidewalk that's about 1.5 feet? And as somebody talked about earlier, yeah, and I am though. And on the other side, I can go down Grimes Bridge, or not. I can do Grimes Bridge, but it's easier to go over to Holcomb Bridge and then down and over. And I, like if Mr. Chen, I've gotten myself a Breeze card and take the 85 and the 185 bus. Just to get down, and I just have this dream that the Atlanta Beltway will connect to the Roswell Greenway, the Alpharetta Greenway, the Forsyth Greenway, and I think you all got to get together, not only with these folks, and I really admire them, but the other governments, and give us, your heads are on right, you're doing the right things, but open up. That's it.
Good evening, Robert Sanders, 9025 Ridgestone Court. I am a Roswell native. I love the city. The beauty of it, it's family centric. And I came back here to raise my family. I'm deeply concerned about the process that the city has taken in conjunction with the North Fulton Radio Authority to select a placement of a 400-foot tower. 400-foot tower across from our backyards. Councilperson DiPolito, we had chili 18 months ago on our tennis court, which was in disrepair. We raised over $100,000 to rebuild that area and a brand new pool and play area for our children. To have the North Fulton Radio Alliance come in and place a 400-foot tower without truly understanding the options, impacts, and detrimental effects to our community is unconscionable. We've heard differing information on this topic. We have been willing to communicate and work with the authority to understand what our options are, and we want to deliver a best-in-breed EMS system with funding from the City of Roswell and Fulton County for our police and fire. We have not been given that opportunity. The information that's not forthcoming that has been discussed is not environmental impacts. It is the information from Comdex, the company that was hired to perform the study to determine the proper placement of these towers. We have not received that study. We've been told with myopic focus that there's only one place this tower can potentially go. That is simply incorrect. We ask for more visibility. We ask for cooperation. And we ask that you understand the facts before placing a 400-foot tower across from our neighborhood. A project is finite. You come in, you deliver a structure, and you leave. That tower is permanent in our backyards, impacting our everyday life where we work, live, and play. Thank you.
Folks who question, apologize. We've had two folks who questioned what information is available from Comdex. Could you tell the audience and the council what information we have from Comdex on this tower?
Yes, sir. Comdex was hired by the North Fulton Regional Radio System Authority to be project manager, so the engineering reports and other information that has been referenced, there's not a nice, neat, bound report. The engineering reports don't exist because the sites have not been selected, so they will be engineered, and then determination will be made whether the tower the site is suitable for a tower to be built there for all of the tower sites for the radio system. There are propagation maps. There is technical information about the requirements such as altitude or the construction of the tower itself. So we will be moving through the process for all of the sites for regulatory, environmental, and licensing. We have had a number of questions from members of the 12 Stone subdivision. We are in the process of gathering all the answers. We were going to try to get all the answers out at once. We had a few days where we had a number of questions and then a few other questions added. So we are prepared to provide those answers. Tomorrow would have gotten to it today, but we had meetings this afternoon, so we have not released them. But we don't have a nice bound report. We're certainly open to meeting with 12 Stones, the people who have specific questions, and Captain Sweeney, who I know most of you who are at the meeting have met, he is on the technical group. There's a couple of groups. There is a administrative type group made up of administrators and police chiefs, those of us who don't know the technical aspects. Captain Sweeney and his counterparts have vast knowledge about the technical requirements of the system, and they will be working along with Motorola and Comdex in the overall system design. So Captain Sweeney certainly has a lot of answers. There are many unknowns at this point that no one can answer. We understand your concerns, but there are things that we have to let the process work, such as engineering. And as the mayor stated earlier, we would be ill-advised to go ahead and do engineering on a site that has yet to be selected. Even when a site is selected, whether it's in Roswell or any other cities involved, it will still remain unknown until all of the environmental and engineering tests and processes have been completed before we will have a green light to go or not.
It's 9 o'clock. We're going to take a 10-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 9:10. To call this meeting back to order. If the council will come back to the dais, we'll reconvene the meeting. Where's the rest of my council? I lost some. That's a good reason. I'd like to, before we begin with questions again, to invite Jack Daughtry, a Life Scout with Troop 87, my old Boy Scout troop, to come forward. Jack, and if you'd come to the microphone and tell us what brings you here tonight.
I'm Jack Daughtry, as you all know already, and I'm with Troop 87, and I'm working on the Citizenship to Community Merit Badge, and one of the requirements is to come here and take notes on a certain political issue and ask questions about it.
Well, what are your questions, Jack?
I was just curious on which part of the government is responsible for things relating to the radio tower being put up.
Well, Jack, the answer would be there are 3 governments involved in this. There is the City of Roswell. There is the North Fulton Public Authority?
North Fulton
Regional Radio Authority, which is Roswell, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, Milton, and City of Mountain Park. But their Mountain Park's sort of a bit player. So those governments are involved. Fulton County, we had previously had our radio system with Fulton County. That system is now obsolete, but Fulton County is also working with the City of Roswell to partnership so that when their public safety people are in North Fulton County, we'll probably partner with them to piggyback on our operation is the way what we anticipate, although that has not been resolved. So those are the primary governments involved, Roswell, the North Fulton Public Safety Authority, and Fulton County government.
Thank you.
Good to have you here tonight. How many merit badges you have to go before you reach that magic number?
Well, this is my last Eagle required merit badges, but I look forward to trying to earn my water sports merit badge because I love to ski and stuff like that. But then after
that'd be the easy one.
Yes. But then after this, all I have to do is my Eagle project and a few Scoutmaster reviews, and then I'm there.
Have you picked an Eagle project?
No, but I'm researching it now.
Well, if you need any projects, Joe Glover with the Roswell Rec Department has 900 acres, which 1,000 acres now? Close to 1,000 acres, and we're always looking for Eagle projects. So we've had a lot of Eagle projects which have gone into our parks. There are a lot of other things, but I always pitch Roswell Parks Department as a good place to talk. Councilman Orleans was a Life Scout. Councilman DiPolito was a Life Scout, and Councilmember Betty Price is a proud mother of an Eagle Scout, so you've got a lot of support for the Scouts up here. And tell Troop 87 that my brother and I are thinking of. That my brother was here, just left today, and as I told you, he was an Eagle Scout. So back to the business of tonight. Who has not had this opportunity? Here's the rule. If you've spoken once, you don't get 2 bites at the apple. I've already heard from you once, so if you haven't spoken, let's hear from you. Yes, I'll hear from this young lady.
Hi, my name is Lauren Fields, and I live at 865 Singing Hills Drive. That's Liberty Square subdivision. I've written a story, so I'm going to, before I start that, I just want to say a couple of things. Parks is my big thing too, so we're buds, and I'm buds with you guys. I've got your cards, and I've considered Mayor Woods and Councilwoman Price my friends already. And then the last point before I read is conceptual with their cell tower thing and conceptual with our big tower thing, and I know it's been called conceptual longer, and I don't know what you're calling that actually, but I hope it's still conceptual. I think why was Grimes Bridge eliminated? I was like, well, maybe it's too much traffic on Riverside Adelia Drive, and my idea, if that's the reason it was eliminated, is to make that a dead-end street so that cars are not going through that area. But I don't know the reason why the other side was really not given so much time and attention. So I'm going to go with this. The wetlands are crying. They are feeling abandoned. Nobody notices them. Nobody seems to care. The wetlands say, we have a job. We do it well. Yet we are at the risk of being fired. Ask the Louisiana wetlands. They will understand. They got fired. May today be today I prove myself. May my mind and yours connect. A wetland story. Although it is a dry day, you can hear the water underground rushing towards me. It rained very hard last night. My paths are flooded with rushing water. Quite a sight. I am a wetland. My job is to filter the water before it goes into Big Creek. Life in the water and life in the ground. Others depend on me. I absorb the water that runs off from the neighborhood roads, driveways and patios. Warsaw, you are part of my hood. Plus 6 lanes of concrete on Holcomb Bridge, 6 lanes of concrete on Massell, 2 roads barely 2 miles apart, 12 lanes of high-density traffic. On the other side of Big Creek, where my sister wetlands live, I hear traffic of 6 more lanes on 400. Do you think you can take more of us without consequences, Big Creek Parkway idea? I need the space I have. You, City Council, are being asked for me to share too much. Let me remind you of how small I am. Compare me to other green spaces. Look at the map. Compare me to the whole. See the benefit I give to all. Thank you in the past for understanding my limitations, to refusing to intrude on me with cell towers, and yet that would not be nearly as intrusive when compared to a bridge and a road. Thank you, City Council, for saying no to a golf range as well. Wake up, speak out, protect us, see the value of the trees, bushes, and the vines and the dirt around my wetlands. Together we filter the air and water so humans and animals can breathe and drink. We provide food and shelter for wildlife as well. There is millions of animals above ground and below. Good job, I say. My green space offers solace and the opportunity to enjoy nature. The joy of a dog and owner strolling down a nature path. Pilgrim and I have experienced that firsthand. A father and his son are fishing, the older teaching the young on Big Creek at Oxbow Road. A woman reading a book and enjoying being close to nature. She even brought her own chair. I say with joy, let me, the wetlands, be the hostess. Cars have no souls. Think big. A paved path for bikers and strollers, a dirt path for joggers, a dirt path for joggers and walkers. From the Hooch to Oxbow Road, through me, the wetlands, follow Big Creek to Alpharetta's Greenway. That is part of our dream. We will look good on the map. The land between Grimes Bridge, Vickery Creek National Park, and Mansell is me. Funding is out there. Vickery Creek National Trails, another route. May I provide a place of peace in this noisy world we live in. Visit Big Creek on Oxford Road. Walk our path this week. The parking is free, although we read the city paid $200,000 for 15 spaces. Our land is priceless, point proven. But see for yourself, visit me soon. Look at the trees on the other side of Big Creek. Your blood pressure has lowered. Protect me. Grants Bridge, I ask you first. 2 lanes to 4 connect east and west. Old Roswell Road can handle from there. May we share with many instead of a few, when we be a hostess God wants us to be. Our park offer pony carts, handicap accessible, easy to steer. For me, Bloodhound Search and Rescue Training Ground. The Healing Springs, my dog swam there. I took her picture. And last of my thoughts, I hear you, Sun Valley Wetlands, you cry as well. You have a job. We give it our best. Yet Sun Valley Wetland Project does not sound good for you. You are at risk of being fired. What will you become, a retaining pond? The top tier of land green space is for the highly developed ecosystem, bigger than our car's convenience. As long as cars are moving, all is well in the car world. Say no thank you to Big Creek Parkway. Think yes to Big Creek Park.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Yes, sir, come forward, please.
Kind of cleared the room, didn't we? Good evening. My name is.
I'm going to take the blame for clearing the room. Y'all didn't clear the room. They should have stayed for the story.
They would be sleeping for me probably. My name is Ed Sint, and I live at 1345 Parkmont Drive. And I appreciate you guys being here tonight and having this open forum, City Council and Mayor Wood, and allowing us to speak directly and publicly to our elected representatives. I'm here tonight because of the automobile, not only because, like most of us here tonight, I came to City Hall in a car, but because of how the automobile impacts our lives, along with providing us the convenience of propelling us to the nearby grocery store or to an out-of-state vacation spot. The car brings a host of negative repercussions to our lives, including but not limited to diminished air quality, noise pollution, roads to drive on that become barriers dividing communities and wildlife, roads that pose a hazard to pedestrians and that are non-point sources of pollution contaminating our streams and rivers. Overall, the great bow down to accommodate the almighty automobile threatens the quality of my life in Roswell and my family's. I get it that traveling Holcomb Bridge Road across Georgia 400s at times can try one's patience, though there are plenty of times I travel Holcomb Bridge Road free from traffic delays. A news outlet traveling around Metro Region for 2 weeks in February 2012 surmised, quote, "After 2 weeks on the road, we have learned that Atlanta has one of the country's worst commutes no matter what intersection you drive through each day." So we're kind of in good company, I guess. We can agree that Holcomb Bridge Road, Georgia 400 intersection is outdated and needs to grow up to better serve increased traffic in the corridor. But somehow the focus on the interchange itself has drifted and thus resulted in proposed new roads as a way to supposedly increase traffic efficiency in the corridor. The Big Creek Parkway and the Sun Valley Drive extension projects fail to address the root cause of traffic congestion at the Holcomb Bridge Road intersection, and if built, will cause much suffering upon the established residential communities on the north side of Holcomb Bridge Road, far more suffering than will be reduced for motorists dealing with rush hour traffic. The impact of increased traffic density through the Warsaw Road corridor will severely choke off the livability of our diverse and affordable neighborhoods. Deciding to run a Bridge Road Parkway capable of handling 4 lanes of traffic right through a wetland, offloading unimaginable traffic flow density onto our little corridor of residential homes is ill-conceived and, upon close scrutiny, unconscionable in my opinion. The pave more lanes to fix it mentality has been a GDOT mindset for a long time, and it has lacked vision or imagination. And since pave more lanes has been the central tenet of the overall transportation plan for the greater metro region the last couple of decades, we paved ourselves into the mess we now find ourselves. But I expect more creativity from Roswell City Hall, and I have confidence that you too will see that this project, while perhaps well-intentioned, is not the solution we need. Regarding wetlands, I imagine that owning a wetland and attempting to turn it into a profit center as a wetland is difficult, but selling it to a developer to build upon could make one money since it is real estate. But the value and wealth that wetlands, when left undisturbed, bring to our collective lives in Roswell is immeasurable, with their diverse habitat of flora and fauna and, as a cleansing filter medium for the watershed runoff that becomes our drinking water. Simply stated, wetlands are awesome. You probably know that the portion of the watershed upstream of the greater metro Atlanta area is the smallest in the nation to serve a major metropolitan area. That's not a good statistic, but a very sad statistic. Right now, 3.5 million people depend on the water supply from this tiny watershed. The demand is growing every day and the water supply is stretched thin. Part of Roswell's drinking water supply comes from an intake on Big Creek that is downstream of the Parkway proposal. I'd like to read you a quote. Quote, "The entire Big Creek watershed is expected to increase from 15% impervious in 1995 to 35% impervious in 2020. If this projection holds true, the Big Creek small water supply watershed will exceed 25% impervious standard established by the Georgia Department of Natural Resources in its rules for environmental planning criteria. The Big Creek watershed will urbanize almost completely, 86% developed, by the year 2020. As of the year 2000, it was 45% developed. All of the streams in the Big Creek watershed are impaired by sediment and are impacted by urbanization." That quote came from the Roswell's Comprehensive Plan 2025, Chapter 5, Natural Resources Element. I'm going to make an educated guess that the wetlands that border the Liberty Square subdivision and Roswell Creek apartments come close to being the largest wetlands in Roswell east of Georgia 400. It is a tract of land, if left undisturbed, can continue to serve a vital function for all the citizens of Roswell. This tract of land is a hidden, shining gem in our city. If you thrust your bridge road upon it with all its roadbed fill and impervious asphalt and concrete, you will be hastening the decline of critical wetlands habitat in complete disregard of Roswell's own comprehensive 2025 findings of concerns. And if you think traffic complaints are negative against attracting folks to come live in our communities, imagine the difficulty in creating a marketing plan for attracting residents to come to communities that suffer shortages of drinking water. Any way you polish this proposed Bridge Road Parkway, it's still a piece of pro-automotive, pave it all over so we can drive on it road that is anti-sustainability, anti-livability, and anti-community. As legislators, there are many projects you will create, support, and then hold up to look back upon as your legacy once you leave office. This road through a wetland and smack into our residential communities will not be looked upon as a worthwhile legacy, but as a catastrophe. So please end this parkway proposal for good, and for the sake of traffic flow, get back on track to updating the interchange of the state roads, Holcomb Bridge Road, Georgia 400, so it will be worthy of the intersection of two interstate highways, and not just to add a little here, add a little there, traffic flow improvements to what were once two sleepy state roads. It won't be cheap. It won't be easy to make it a proper high-density interchange, but I have confidence you can step up to the challenge to create a plan and seek out state and federal funds to make the Holcomb Bridge Georgia 400 interchange fit the traffic density and become more efficient, and keep it from sprawling far and wide into established neighborhoods and wetlands by way of unwanted new roads. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else who has not already had an opportunity to speak wish to come forward? If not seeing any hands up, we're going to adjourn the public meeting on the fifth Monday meeting. Now we're going to have a special call